I have genuinely been struggling to describe Indiana Jones and the Great Circle in a way that does justice to the experience I had playing it. How do I convey the intricacies of the puzzles, the genius of their design, the way they challenge your intelligence yet reward your cleverness in ways that feel entirely earned?
So, are we going inside?
How do I explain the necessity of the first-person perspective? The way that picking up objects, pulling levers, turning keys, following your map, punching Nazis, and physically interacting with the world isn't just for gameplay. It's a way of stepping into Indiana Jones himself. How do I explain that it captures the feeling of thinking like him, moving like him, exploring like him, truly inhabiting a beloved character's shoes unlike any game before it? How do I describe the open levels themselves, the freedom of approach they offer that rival games like Dishonored and Hitman? The Vatican, a masterclass in intricate level design, beautiful interiors and creepy cults. Giza, a tour de force of hidden passages, curious locals and secrets waiting to be discovered. Sukhothai, a jungle drenched in mystery, and that's not even to mention the various other smaller linear locations that you get to visit that are equally as jaw-dropping and packed with the craziest amount of detail. How do I talk about this story without leaning on words like incredible, breathtaking, or amazing, because those words would do it a disservice? The narrative here isn't just good, it's meticulously crafted, wonderfully acted, and genuinely surprising, and still somehow perfectly Indiana Jones. Obsession is the key word, and it runs through everything here. The development team's relentless obsession and how meticulously everything has been crafted, and Indiana's own obsession to pursue history's secrets no matter the personal cost. It is difficult to describe something this good. Every adjective just feels small, inadequate, and incapable of capturing the sheer joy I had while playing this game. So I just stopped trying. It would drive me insane to find the perfect words to describe a game this close to adventure perfection. And maybe I don't need to, because at its core, the words that I'm searching for, they're simple. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is the best adventure game ever made. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining why, breaking down the highs of the Great Circle, but also the lows, because there really isn't such a thing as perfection. But damn it, if this game doesn't come pretty darn close. This is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle 1 year later. Now, Indiana Jones is great at solving puzzles, but one puzzle I'm really hoping you can help me solve is that 98% of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. So if you like deep dives into games you love, subscribing really helps me keep investigating more of them. But with that being said, let's get back to Indiana Jones. The first reveal of this game happened back in 2021, and I got genuinely excited. The potential of a brand new Indiana Jones game felt endless. Todd Howard being involved was promising too. He has openly gushed about the franchise for years, and you truly need someone passionate about the source material at the helm if your goal is to create a game based on a massive franchise. But when the first gameplay and story reveal happened on January 19th, 2024, well, let's just say my immediate reactions weren't that pretty. I absolutely hated that it was first person. I didn't like the idea of using Harrison Ford's likeness. The visuals felt off, almost ugly in places. Nothing about the reveal impressed me, except one thing that gave me a tiny bit of hope. The emphasis on tombs and puzzles. Adventure games come in all shapes and sizes, but the ones I enjoy the least are the ones that overemphasize the action instead of the adventure itself. I have never been so happy to be proven wrong, especially about my biggest concern, the choice of going first person. This being arguably the smartest design choice they made, because it sells the most important thing in an Indiana Jones game. From the very first moment of actual gameplay, the game sets the tone for what being Indiana Jones truly feels like, because one of the first major things you do is solve a puzzle, picking up scattered trinkets in the exhibit hall and figuring out where they belong based on the very minimal clues provided. It's the perfect introduction because it tells you who Indiana Jones is. He is a thinker, a problem solver, a man whose intelligence, observation skills, and intuition are his primary tools instead of his gun, fists, or whip. The game tells you directly, if you want to be Indiana Jones, you are going to have to think like him. And it truly can't be overstated how powerful this sense of tactility is in this game, and how it's core to why this game needed to be in first person. Examining relics up close, taking photos of inscriptions, using a magnifying glass to uncover secrets, using a torch to light your way or scare away a horde of scorpions in an underground tomb, browsing your maps, picking up books, flipping through your journal, entering codes, physically turning pieces until they click. These are tiny gestures, but they accumulate into a lived-in sense of exploration. This game understands that adventure is physical, but so is archaeology. Using your hands, eyes, and mind is core to who Indiana Jones is. So the gameplay continually reinforces that idea of actually being him by making you interact with the world in a way that only Indiana Jones would, making you feel the adventure by feeling like the adventurer.
Beautiful animals, and useful.
And that attention to detail goes deeper than I ever expected, sometimes literally into the shadows. There are few silhouettes in cinema more iconic than Indiana Jones. The fedora, the jacket, the stance. Spielberg and his team understood that silhouette's power, so imagine my surprise when I started noticing just how obsessively MachineGames brought that idea into the game. The shadow work in the Great Circle is absurdly meticulous. The lighting consistently casts Indy in ways that evoke those classic shapes, those instantly recognizable outlines you could identify from a mile away. You're not just thinking like Indy, hitting like Indy, or traversing like Indy. Your shadow looks like Indy. The game quietly anchors you in the character from every angle you approach it. For example, there isn't a traditional pause map screen. Your journal contains your map and you open it in-game, looking at it as you walk, like a real explorer would, holding up his map to see where he's headed. You solve puzzles by investigating them in great detail, following the threads, moving objects, manipulating the environment until that aha moment hits. And a lot of modern games, especially PlayStation exclusives, love having the characters narrate puzzles out loud, killing the joy of actually solving it yourself. Indiana never does that. He mutters to himself in ways that feel natural, true to the character, and never spoils the final answer. He knows things, and he pieces things together like Indy would, but he never treats you like an audience that he has to try and explain things to.
Giborim, a nameless crusader. That's a cylinder piece he's holding.
In terms of gameplay, it's closer to inhabiting his actual headspace. Indiana becomes a part of your toolkit, and you use his intuition to solve puzzles the same way you'd use his whip to traverse the tombs. When Indiana says to himself,
Indiana, you're a genius.
when figuring out a difficult puzzle, he means it because he is, and you are. The game being in first person is all about exploring the world as Indy would, but it doesn't just tell you to do it, it really makes you want to.
Walk right into that one.
The gameplay loop reinforces exploration at every turn. Take skill books for example. They improve your character by giving you abilities like Lucky Hat. It allows Indiana to revive himself if he happens to get down by simply finding his hat somewhere on the ground before he passes out. Now these skill books can only be found by exploring, and you can only activate them by earning adventure points, which you can only gain by, you guessed it, exploring, solving puzzles, finding collectibles, and completing fieldwork, which is this game's version of major side quests. And there are a bunch of phenomenal side quests in this game. Helping the quirky Professor Savage save his assistant Sydney from a Nazi prison, finding a massive and completely optional hidden ruin in Sukhothai, filled to the brim with incredible puzzles and new characters like Annika, a former student of Indy now working for the Nazis, or arguably the best optional side quest, the Order of Giants expansion, that literally takes you to Rome, investigating an underground cult and their connection to the Nephilim giants. You could complete this game without doing any of these major side quests, but you would be doing yourself a massive disservice. Fieldwork in this game is truly special because it often reinforces or enhances the main campaign, so anything you do off the beaten path is never a waste of time, rewarding you with adventure points, more context from characters that you'd sometimes never even meet in the main campaign, and small stories that further flesh out the world. It gives each of these locations a real sense of lived-inness.
Gotta keep my distance.
the Vatican, Giza, and Sukhothai, massive open hubs that allow you to explore at your own pace. You're encouraged to poke around, lose your bearings, and often stumble into some unexpected fieldwork. Layer in the fact that this game has a whole fully fleshed out disguise system, allowing you to enter restricted areas like an illegal underground boxing ring just by wearing the right clothes, and suddenly the game's openness grows exponentially. You can now gain free access to Nazi encampments, and even the Sistine Chapel whilst pretending to be a priest.
Michelangelo's magnum opus.
It's an incredibly simple addition, but it adds so much in terms of player choice, because now you could go in all guns blazing, or you could sneak in with the multiple ways of entry this game offers with its hidden doors, underground tunnels, or open windows, or simply use the disguise system. The options can sometimes feel endless, and it's in this freedom that you truly feel like Indiana Jones, making the plan up as you go. Now, of course, there are certain high-level guards that can see straight through your disguises, so sometimes, to put it mildly, things tend to escalate. The brilliance of this combat system is that it feels intentionally clunky without ever feeling bad to play. Most games focus on making combat look sleek and cinematic, but Indiana Jones isn't a perfect hero. He's scrappy, improvisational, and chaotic, and the combat reflects that perfectly. You grab whatever's at hand, and you dodge, parry, and adapt on the fly. It's messy, makeshift, and utterly true to the character. I also love the quippy remarks that Indiana will sometimes throw after knocking a guard out.
Sweet dreams, fella.
The way these guards react to your punches, how their faces perfectly convulse with every hit, the satisfying ragdoll of a guard being knocked unconscious with a massive guitar, or the way they shake their hand in pain after whipping a gun out of their hand. It is so fun, man, and it's exactly how it's supposed to be. If you ever wondered whether the stupidity of the Nazis' AI was intentional, I can assure you it was. They are easily outsmarted, quick to go down, and perfectly capture the bumbling, overconfident archetype that Spielberg created in the films. But nothing is perfect, so if I had to critique one major thing in this game, it has to be the boss fights. Now, they are rare. You only run into a handful in the main campaign, usually involving the giant locust or the final showdown with Voss and his surprisingly committed karate routine. But they just don't feel great to play. The game simply isn't built around combat, so these bigger moments end up feeling clunky. Most boss fights boil down to blocking, dodging, and looking for an opening. But because Indiana isn't the most fluid character to control, you're often caught off guard, hit unexpectedly, or just unable to keep up with the pace that this game suddenly demands of you. But because there are only 6 boss fights, 7 if you include the Order of Giants expansion, it's a flaw that I'm more than willing to forgive. And to be fair, the final boss in the Order of Giants is a genuine improvement. The flow is better, the opportunities to attack are clearer, throwable weapons matter more, and the setting is just downright incredible. And while we're praising boss fights, a special shout out to the massive snake encounter in the base game. Now, as a fight, it's incredibly simple. You're basically just chucking a spear every time it opens its mouth, but this sequence itself, man, it is unforgettable. Seeing that enormous snake gliding through the water, swimming for your life, knowing this is Indiana Jones's greatest fear, and then facing it head on turns a mechanically light encounter into one of the game's most visually striking and thematic moments. And that's usually a big key factor to why this game works as well as it does, despite some mechanically disappointing moments. MachineGames clearly cared about this project, but none of this attention to detail, relentless obsession over perfect shadow placement, or beautifully designed open locations would matter if they didn't bring it all together with a story that truly captivated you. Let's just start off with the brilliance of Troy Baker's performance. This dude sounds more like Harrison Ford than Harrison Ford. The thing he absolutely nailed as Indiana is just how he reacts to every discovery. Every moment involving ancient relics, hidden secrets, or the revelation of the Great Circle, his excitement is palpable. His face lights up with a childlike euphoria. It's a pure, infectious joy, and watching it, it's honestly nothing short of beautiful. It's in this childlike euphoria that this game's main underlying theme becomes clear: Indiana's obsession with the past. Now, the main adventure begins with a break-in at Marshall College. Locus, a giant, steals an artifact known as the Cat Mummy from an exhibit and escapes, leaving behind a pendant that Indiana traces back to the Vatican. Now, Indiana being Indiana, he's compelled beyond reason. He drops everything in his life to find out why the Cat Mummy mattered so much, but before he leaves, he finds a gift inside his suitcase.
Who's it from?
Doesn't say.
A journal from Marion, tucked inside his suitcase. Now, I don't think it's any coincidence that one of the game's main important tools is tied directly to her. Your journal becomes a constant companion throughout the entire adventure. And that connection quietly reinforces something Indy keeps trying not to think about, but can never truly escape. Her presence lingers with him, literally, in his hands as he pieces together the mysteries of the Great Circle. Now, Marcus Brody doesn't have a lot of lines, but I think the following scene summarizes exactly the story that MachineGames are trying to tell about Indy.
Can't just run away from your problems, Indiana.
Watch me.
Indiana doesn't want to grow up. The thing that scares him the most is a life of settling down. Archaeology taught in the halls of Marshall College instead of in the field. So despite loving Marion, he has always been more obsessed with the past instead of his own present. When Indy arrives at the Vatican, he crosses paths with a handful of colorful characters, but amongst the most important include Gina, a reporter searching for her lost sister, Laura Lombardi, an expert in ancient languages who Gina believes was abducted by Emmerich Voss, a German archaeologist and one of, if not the best, villains the entire series has ever seen. Smart, manipulative, and perhaps even more obsessed than Indiana Jones, Voss is after the Cat Mummy as well. He manages to seize it before Indiana does, and then he does the unthinkable. He breaks it open. Found inside is a relic. It turns out that Locus, the giant that stole the Cat Mummy, belongs to the Nephilim Order, a brotherhood of giants whose entire purpose is to safeguard the relics of the Great Circle, hidden inside 17 artifacts scattered across the world. The Cat Mummy being one of those artifacts. Locus brought it here for safekeeping, but the Germans had other plans. So what is the Great Circle, and why does Voss care so much about these relics? Well, I've been talking a lot, so let's have Indiana explain it.
That's the Earth. Throughout history, mankind has built sites of great spiritual significance. Siwa, Giza, Persepolis, Mohenjo-Daro, Sukhothai, Nazca, Machu Picchu. Now, here's the strange part. If you were to draw a line through these ancient sites around the globe, you get a perfectly aligned circle.
The Great Circle.
Exactly.
Sounds like a coincidence to me.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it's just a fluke. Or maybe Voss found something that connects these stone relics to the Great Circle.
From here, the story becomes a race against time. Voss already possesses 14 of the 17 relics, and Indiana must track down the remaining 3 before Voss completes the set. The search takes him to Giza, later to Sukhothai, and most importantly, to the Himalayas, where the true nature of these relics is finally revealed. Gina intercepted a Nazi radio transmission, a Morse code that was sent from the Himalayas, coincidentally also where Voss is sending all his men. They follow the trail to the mountains and discover a massive Nazi ship, impossibly wedged on the summit of a peak. Together, they begin questioning their own sanity.
You seeing this too?
Yeah! It's a ship!
Good! Then I'm not crazy!
How on earth did it end up here?
Let's get a closer look.
Now, the truth about Gina's sister comes into focus here as they enter the ship. Laura, amongst many other frozen bodies, is found dead, as they learn that she has been forced by Voss to translate the writings on the stones. The words on these stones is written in Adamic, believed to be the first ever language spoken, and Laura was one of the only people in the world that could decipher the words. This is the moment where the story truly steps into something completely unexpected. Gina and Indy realize that this ship did not not crash on this mountain. It teleported there, and they come to the conclusion that the relic had something to do with it.
It's Adamic! We have to say the word in Adamic! Haksalaim!
My jaw was on the floor. In an instant, Indy and Gina were teleported to Shanghai. And what a phenomenal set piece this is. From the planes flying overhead to the iconic recreation of a classic Raiders of the Lost Ark moment, where Indy just simply shoots a skilled swordsman.
Why'd you have to do that?
The final confrontation leads Indy to Iraq, saving Gina and finally figuring out what purpose these relics truly serve.
Madre mia. Is that what I think it is?
It's Noah's Ark.
It's real?
Yep, that's right. The whole story has been about Noah's Ark. I mean, come on. That is just insane in the most brilliant way. The Great Circle relics are revealed to be the tools that Noah used to save life on Earth. In the biblical tale, Noah gathers animals 2 by 2 and shelters them from the global flood. The game then asks a simple but brilliant question. How does one person travel the entire world to gather every species before the flood? The answer within this story is the Great Circle. Each relic contains a word in Adamic, and when spoken, these words activate portals that can transport a person or ark across the planet.
Inserting the stones into the wheel of the Ark and speaking the words in their correct order will grant me the power to travel to any location I want in an instant.
Noah didn't sail across the world to gather animals, he used these artifacts to reach countless distant places in moments. The Great Circle formed a network, a chain of connected points wrapping around the globe, allowing Noah to secure life wherever it existed. And man, I just honestly think this whole plot point is so brilliant. And so unexpected. I mean, I genuinely didn't see it coming. I was so focused on simply finding the relics that I never once thought that they served a purpose this big. And the fact that they never spoiled this in the trailers, or even hinted at it in the marketing, made this one of those reveals that will forever be ingrained in my mind. As with any classic Indiana Jones story, meddling with the power of God is incredibly dangerous. Indy knows this better than anyone. Noah was chosen. Voss was not. His obsession with harnessing the teleportation ability of the Ark to gain an edge in the coming war, to strengthen the Nazi regime, and to elevate himself beyond mortal limits pushes him into a territory that no human was meant to enter. And this arrogance triggers forces far beyond his control, and a massive storm erupts. This sets the stage for the final tragedy. Locus, who has now aligned himself with Indiana, understands that the Ark and its relics must be protected from humanity once and for all. He makes the ultimate sacrifice, ensuring no one can interfere with the Great Circle ever again. And as for Voss, well, let's just say he leans more to the negative side of obsession. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle isn't just a triumph of design. It's a portrait of obsession, both on the page and behind the scenes. You can feel it in every room, every relic, every quiet moment where a puzzle clicks into place. MachineGames didn't just make an Indiana Jones game. They chased the idea of Indiana Jones with the same relentless energy that Indy chases the past. They obsessed the way Indy obsesses. And that's what makes this experience so special. Indiana's main core trait, his inability to let go of the past, to slow down, to stop chasing the next mystery, is the very thing the developers channeled into every frame of this adventure. His fixation becomes the heartbeat of this game, and their fixation becomes the reason it works. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is the result of a studio pouring years of passion into a character defined by passion. And that is why, 1 year later, this game still refuses to leave my mind. Because games like this don't come around often. Games made with this kind of care, this kind of detail, this kind of love for adventure. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is the greatest adventure game ever made, and I think it will be a long time before any game comes even close to outshining it.